Researched all that I did later, and India was of course very dear to me, and my motherland, my homeland, that's what it was. But I still didn't know that it was this sea, the vastest of seas of knowledge that I'm just skimming on the surface. I didn't know that yet. So sometimes I think about that, and then I think of where I am today, where I am co-curating a conference like this, and hopefully this will be the beginning, and there'll be many more like this that we'll be doing. So I just want to briefly talk about how it was like writing this book. So I thought it started off with a radio show that I did on India's ancient universities. At that time I was with a history group. And I just thought I will talk about Nalanda, Vikramshila, whatever few universities I knew. I just will Google about them and write about them. But somewhere along the way, when I was doing just Googling, I found that there is so much that we don't talk about at all. It just blew me away. And then I started writing a series of articles, which again, Indica goes back a long way. It was in Indica Today or India Facts that I first published those articles, and one by one. And as I went on writing more, I felt that there's endless things that I'm finding out, and I'm going on sharing. So people said, convert that into a book. And that's how I got the first book called The Educational Heritage of India. Again, it was Sri Harikiran Vadlamani who gave it a good launch in Singapore, invited people. And then as the journey progressed, I got so much more information. People used to email me, tell me more about what work they are doing. And so I was compelled to write the second book, the Revisiting the Educational Heritage of India. I believe everybody will get a copy of this book. So the one thing which is actually, it is a very broad overview of India's educational heritage, all the centers of learning, how we had when I started plotting the places on the map of India, where were those centers of learning? Takshashila and Nalanda and all were just a few, they were drowned in the names of the other universities that were all over India, like Kantalur Shala in Kerala, like, Vallabhi in Gujarat. How little we talk about these universities. Then Ujjain, of course, Ujjain as a center of mathematics, this Jyotisha, that is the one that I knew. But as I went deeper and deeper, I found there's so much I didn't know, like how Sri Krishna himself, choosing Ujjain as the place where he wants to go for further studies. That itself, it's endorsed by Lord Sri Krishna himself. So this was all, making me feel so filled with wonderment. And then, as Nagaraj said, I discovered all these people who we used to think they were uneducated I call it my secular times, when I used to be, since I'm a product of the modern education system, English is the language that I was taught in. So in those days, I also used to use those kind of stupid terms like, okay, uneducated. But then as I came to know the level of my ignorance, it just filled me with more joy. So each time I find something that I don't know about India, it just makes me so happy. And so this journey of writing about India's educational heritage, it filled me with inspiration that there was this time when we started all these disciplines, what is being studied in the universities, in foreign universities, everywhere. All these disciplines, if you go back to the history of it, you find that it starts from India. Right? Whether it's mathematics, medicine, anything, geography, you name it, and grammar, computer programming, right? When you go back to the original, the foundation of it, you find that it has come from some Gurukula, some university in India. It has already been talked about, discussed, it is there in commentaries, and what we are talking about is much later. Like we have not even witnessed the great debates. We have not even heard what they were talking about, right? We are just rediscovering what has already been discussed. So that is how it was. And then this journey of writing a book has brought out to me that there is so much more to learn. For example, I was actually a little bit depressed when I wrote this book. I thought that, okay, the great period is over, and now, we have got colonized, we are poor, so many trillions of dollars were stolen from India by the British. There's little we can do. We can't catch up with the rest of the world. That was the kind of depression I was getting. And then I came to know about this huge Gurukul Sammelan that was being held in Ujjain. In 2018, I was in Singapore. Somebody said, you have written a book about India's educational heritage. Do you know there is a Gurukul Sammelan, Vishwa Gurukul Sammelan being held in Ujjain? So I said, how many Gurukuls are there? Well, maybe 20, 30, 100? That's what I thought. Then when I came here, I was just taken aback. Hundreds and hundreds of Gurukuls are still there. And they came from Nepal, they came from Bhutan. I didn't know there were Gurukulas in Bhutan. Nepal, in fact, is very much there. It is very, very alive, the Gurukula system of education. Almost all of them go there. 80% of people are actually educated in Gurukulas there. Only a small percentage goes to regular schools, is what I heard. So this Gurukul Sammelan, which was held in Ujjain, it was huge. It was my first, because I had not yet attended any Kumbh Mela or anything of that sort. And that's when I got the experience of indigenous education, what it is like. I saw the display of the Gurukulas. They're displaying the arts that they have learned. They were coming on stage showing, okay, they know this archery, horse riding. Of course, that was outside in the fields. We saw that. Swords, various kinds of things. Poetry, literature, everything was being displayed. Dance, drama. So then I got more immersed in it. So that's how I came to know about Ujjain. And then it went on. I've been writing, I've been meeting people, learning more. And then recently Hari Kiranji called me and said, Sahana ji, we want you to be the co-curator of this conference, which is inspired from your book. And now you have to organize, help Nagaraj ji to organize a conference on this. So that is when now, the academic part of it, the pedagogy thing took precedence. In fact, it is by working with Nagaraj ji that I realized how much more work has to be done with relation to the pedagogy of ancient India. Because there is now Indian knowledge systems has become a byword. We are using that quite a lot. Government of India has taken cognizance. I have been to a number of conferences where IKS is being discussed. And that's where I met Shri Prada in Kerala early this year. So the students were all competing on Indian knowledge systems. They had to give some short paper that take any branch of Indian knowledge systems and submit a paper or a poster. So when I went for that is, earlier I used to think who would be interested in IKS? More youngsters will not be interested. But I saw that a whole lot of youngsters had come, they had written, and on different subjects, like cooking. Somebody is presenting a paper on using ancient Indian knowledge of cooking in today's times, and they had somebody presented on that. And she presented a paper on Ayurveda, which won the best poster. Of course, after that is history for her. She has won many, many big things. She has worked on big projects. But I always remembered her, that she presented so sincerely, whatever she had learned. 5 ways, what was it called, Shripada? Yeah, so 5 ways of worship, right? So she explained that and people were fascinated. And she's a girl who grew up in America and she has come all the way to study Ayurveda 5 years in India, and then she's presenting. So this has an impact, Nagaraj ji. When you go abroad and then come back, I think that is something we have to take note, because, yeah. Yeah. So then Hari Kiranji and I were discussing where to hold this conference. Initially he said Nalanda. But I felt like Nalanda, a lot of people know about it. It has been much talked about. There's a new university also. But Ujjain is where I felt like this is the right place. So the 0-degree longitude passes through this place. It is the place where Krishna came for further studies. It is the place where Brahmagupta, Bhaskaracharya, Varahamihira, all these people came up with the foundational concepts of mathematics that we just take for granted today. I mean, small things like zero, we think that, we think it's very intuitive. Of course, we know what happens when you add 0 to a number. You know what happens when you multiply 0 to a number. Imagine a time when nobody knew about this. Europe, forget about it. They fought against the idea. They thought 0 is a bad thing. And also negative numbers, for example. Negative numbers were considered something evil, the satanic. So at that time, when the rest of the world was not even thinking about it, we were making all these rules about 0, what happens when you add 0 to a number, and then going on to, have all this calculus, first pre-calculus, then calculus, right? We were understanding a number in different ways. When you look at the Greeks and the other, pre-industrial societies, if you look at what they know about mathematics, it's at a very basic level, very geometric. They understood it in a geometric way. But if you read the works of our mathematicians, they understood numbers in a geometric way, then algebraic, arithmetic, that they could look at different ways of understanding numbers, the numeral system. So there is a lot that we have to unearth about our knowledge systems as well as the pedagogy. Now, the pedagogy, you get a faint glimpse of it even in the works of the 18th century British observers of India. For example, the simple things which we think is very basic, but they were amazed by it, like sand tracing. The fact that outside every school in India, there used to be a sand heap where the children used to learn how to trace alphabets. And this is somebody, if somebody tells you this is such a great pedagogical way of teaching, you'll think, what? What is the sand tracing on sand? But this was, can you imagine? Because at that time, because there were not enough blackboards in schools in England, there was illiteracy. So when Dr. Andrew Bell was passing by these schools in Tamil Nadu and noticing that all the schools had sand heaps outside, and he was saying that they don't need blackboards. They're learning how to read and write just by using sand. They're learning mathematics calculations using the sand. So he said, what is going on? How come they all know all this and we don't know anything? We are saying, oh, we don't have resources. Until you give resources, we can't open schools. And so we have low literacy in England. So he went back and took this method and called it Madras method, having sand heaps or mentoring, for example. He was astonished to find that older children are mentoring the younger children. So that was called monitoring at that time. And that was also like a pedagogical tool that, in England, they didn't have enough teachers. And teachers were not interested in doing the work. It was not, the work of teaching was not an exalted work. It was not a sacred work like it was in India. And over here, he found that teachers are there, but when the teachers are not there, we have the older students who don't want to waste time in the school because they are there from morning to evening. They'll call the younger children and say, okay, let me teach you something. And they'll start using that sand again to teach them something. So this was very impressive for Dr. Andrew Bell. He called it all, he put it within Madras method, took it to England. And I found out there's a Madras college, which is still there in Scotland. So small pedagogical things that fascinated them, and we ourselves don't take cognizance of it today, right? So this conference is the way by which we are getting people to think and not just use Indian knowledge systems, as Nagaraji was drumming home into every presenter that okay, don't just be inspired by that Indian knowledge system and say that okay, it's relevant for today. Find out, read the records, and see what pedagogical, what mention is there of the pedagogy in the Shastras, and from there, what can we derive? That is very, very interesting, right? Even examinations, for example, how are examinations being conducted? Again, an 18th century example from another missionary who came to convert, but looks like he got converted himself because he was praising the examination system in Bengal, where he's saying that the children are enjoying the examination. How is that possible? I mean, examination is when people are scared and they don't want to go or they fall sick. But over here in Bengal, every child is looking forward to that tournament. And that's because it was so interactive. So he describes an examination method where all the students are assembled in one place. The students from different schools get together in one place, and the top student of one school is asking a question to the top student of another school, and if he cannot answer, it goes to the second student. If he cannot answer, it goes to the third student. And then the reverse, that school will now ask questions to the others. And in this way, everybody is laughing. And also he found that sometimes Brahman students are not able to answer, and the Shudras are doing well. They're all sitting together. So this kind of an examination where all the different jatis are there, who want to go for education, and they're all questioning each other, and that's how the exam is being conducted. So it's like a picnic come examination. Again, these are things that we have not documented. They observed it and wrote about it. So I hope that this conference will be the starting point, and we will start examining our pedagogical methods and tools by which for all the subjects were taught. So Ayurveda, yes, we found somebody who's going to tell us something about it. But there are so many fields we are not touching in this conference. So we didn't get anyone from mathematics to come and tell us how algebra was being taught, how arithmetic was being taught, right? So we could not get, I mean, we called for papers many months ago, 6 months ago, but we didn't get it. I wish that would have been very uplifting for me if we could have had some sessions on mathematics, the pedagogy of mathematics. But that's why I'm saying there will be a sequel, right? We are going to have. You're going to talk about mathematics. Okay. Okay. Great. No, but I want more. Dil mangta more. So, Stapatya. Yes, that's another problem, that we are conducting this in English. So we are missing out a lot of knowledge in regional languages. So if we call, Bengalis, Telugu-speaking people, Kannada-speaking people, we have that kind of a multilingual conference where there is translation facility available, then maybe we'll get a richer experience. But as they say, just start something, good or bad, and we will keep improving along the way. So I hope this is one of those. So I don't want to stand between you and tea. I also want tea. Thank you very much for coming. Try and spend as much time as you can with each other, and spark ideas from each other, take inspiration from each other, and stay in touch after the conference also, so that you know what everybody is doing.